Hi, everybody. I hope this finds you doing well and staying healthy. I want to show some enhancements to Illuminated Cloud's capabilities for template-based file creation, specifically for Apex classes, based on a template for, say, a design pattern or a framework pattern, where you want to parameterize the creation of that based on some user-entered values. So, for example, we'll go ahead and look at a couple of them, but we'll start with demos of them. I'm going to go ahead and create a new Apex class, and I want to create a comparator for, say, shopping list items. So this is going to implement the comparator interface from the Serono Common Class Library, open source class library. So I'm going to hit enter, and it's going to use that template. And now it's actually going to not just create the file, but before it deploys, before it does other things with it, prompt the user to actually parameterize that file based on how they want it to work. So we're basically applying, a templatized design pattern or framework pattern here. So I'm going to say shopping list item. I'm going to go ahead and choose that, and you can see that it's actually filling out quite a bit of what's going on here. And now it's saying, okay, well, as we get strongly typed versions of the two values for comparison, here's some various variable naming options. We'll go ahead and say item, and it's just going to go ahead and populate both of them for consistency, item one, item two. So that actually created a shopping list item comparator where all I have to do now is, based upon the template, fill out the actual relationship evaluation so I can determine how these should be arranged relationally against one another. So let's look at a second example, and then we'll look at how this works. Let's look at a trigger handler, one that I think almost everyone's familiar with. It's going to be a very simple trigger handler pattern. It's the trigger handler, again, from the Serono Common Library. So I'm going to say new Apex class trigger handler. I'm going to say this is going to be an expense trigger handler. Hit enter, and it's going to go ahead again and start prompting me. And now it's going to prompt me for based on S object. So I'm going to say expense underscore C, and I'm going to now cycle to the next variables, and we'll look at why it skipped new expenses and took me to old expenses by IDs in the template and explain the way that worked. That's a good name, and I'll go ahead and accept that. And now we actually have a trigger handler where all we have to do is start to override some of the events that we want to actually handle. All right, so that hopefully should make short work of applying, like I said, design patterns and framework patterns from some of these open source libraries that are out there. How does this actually work? Well, if we open the settings and go into editor, file, and code templates, we see exactly what we'd expect. It's the various file and code templates for Apex classes and Visual Force pages, Lightning bundle files, all those types of things. But at the bottom, you'll see there's a couple of these that have blue because they're custom. They were created as part of the IDE, and they can be checked in as part of your project and shared among your team. And let's take a look at these actual file templates. They're a little bit different. So first, they have enable live templates checked, and that enables this type of additional variable syntax that you see here for type and variable. And we'll look at more of these. And what that would do out of the box with the JetBrains IDEs is it would stop at those in the order first encountered. So it would stop at type here and variable here, and then it would populate the other instances of the same variables based upon what the user typed using code completion. But there wouldn't be anything smart about it like you would get with live templates. And so that's one of the other enhancements that I've done here. If you're familiar with live templates, just hopping over for a second, here's a live template. When you create your live template expression, you can also specify additional information about your variables. So for the variable called S-object, an expression can be use one or more of these macros, a very simple expression syntax, and then you can also supply an optional default value, and you can specify whether it should always stop there or not. So if there's only one value available, should it still stop there and give the user an opportunity to type in something different from whatever the one defaulted value would be or not? And that information is not available with these live template enabled file and code templates, but it is something that I've added for Apex classes in particular. So it will be important that when you give it a name, you also give an extension of .cls, and that'll cause it to be added to the list of templates when you say new Apex class. And then you can start to add in comment-based imperatives up here, you can start to add the same information you saw for live templates. So the variable name, and then expression always stop at, and default value. We'll see default value in the other one, and then you can give it a value. So basically, when it gets to type, and the order matters here. This means type will be evaluated before variable, even if they're found in a different order in the template. So when it gets to type, the expression that it should use to offer values is all the subtypes of all the Apex subtypes of objects. So really all types other than object. And then always stop at that. The user has to supply a type. Then move to variable in the template as it's walking the user through it. And the expression for variable is to suggest a variable name based upon the user selected value for the type variable. So basically, suggest variable names based upon the type that's going to be used in this comparator. And don't always stop here. So if there's only one suggested variable name, just take it. Now, if you didn't want to do that, if you wanted the user to have an opportunity to type something in, you could just type true here. And that is the way that that comparator template worked. Now let's take a look at the trigger handler template. It's going to be basically the same thing. Again, order matters here. So you can see that as far as the variables, let's see, S object is still encountered first, then new list and old map. So we have to provide some additional information up here. Now you don't have to actually. If you don't, it will use the order as they're encountered. You basically act as default. Code completion will activate. It'll always stop at it. So for the expression, show all subtypes of S object. The default value should be S object and always stop there. And then for new list, basically the member variable that are the new S objects in the trigger handler. Suggest a variable name based on a list of the user specified S object type prefixed with new. So all the variable suggestions will have a new as a prefix, and the default value is going to be new objects. And we don't always have to stop there. Again, if there's only one suggestion, just use that suggestion. It's going to be the most rational suggestion. And for the old map, basically the old objects, if in an update or something by ID, then suggest a variable name as a map of ID to the S objects the user selected prefixed with old. Default value old objects by IDs, and we don't always have to stop there. And so you can see that basically that's how that template works. And now that you see that, let's just go through it one more time. And I'll just go ahead and choose the trigger handler, and I'll just go ahead and say I want an account trigger handler. And I can't remember if I already have an account trigger handler, so I'm going to say 2 just to make it unique. And as I start typing account, and then you can see that it again skipped new accounts because there were the only variable suggestion name was accounts, and it was prefixed with new, so there was only one, but there are multiple options here. So again, we're just going to choose the default. And again, now we have a strongly typed parameterized trigger handler for accounts. Hopefully that makes sense. I'm documenting all this. It'll be part of the release notes, and it's been added to the user guide in terms of the macros that are available and things like that. Undoubtedly, you'll run into situations where you'll need a macro that's not actually available. If so, open an enhancement request in the public issue tracker and let me know, and I'll look at taking care of it. It'll be important that you provide a concrete example of how that macro would solve your problem in a template, though. But yeah, just let me know. Otherwise, I hope this helps you to build out a library of smart live template or file templates that use live templates to help you apply some of your design patterns and framework patterns as you're implementing new files, new Apex class files. Thanks a lot, and thanks for your time. Bye.